Thank you for joining Wars of the Rosies, and this is The Secret Destiny of America by Manly P. Hall, an article taken from Horizon, Volume 2, Number 6, February 1943. The general program and pattern of our civilization was known centuries before it was brought into existence. The Secret Destiny of America. In times such as these we are living today, the problem of intelligent patriotism comes more and more to our realization. We all love our country. We all love the principles and ideals for which it stands. But I wonder, how many of us have any comprehension of what has occurred in the past to bring this country to its present estate? Each of us has a life of his own devoted to the things he is interested in. I have spent quite a bit of my time digging into ancient records, searching for knowledge of great foundations, great ideals, which lie at the background of our present existence. I believe that the general program and pattern of our civilization was known centuries before it was brought into existence. If not by a general body of mankind, at least by certain groups or individuals who have peculiar aptitude in this direction. That the world's forward motion has been anticipated by the past, and that whether we realize it or not, or believe it or not, we are gradually working into a plan and a pattern that was prepared for us before this continent was even known as the home of a great civilization such as we have today. Saint Odile is one of the most picturesque characters in early Christian religious thought. She was born blind, was converted to the Christian faith, and as a result of this conversion, is believed to have regained her sight. She was then accredited with numerous miracles. Saint Odile died in the year AD 711, some say 713, but certainly approximately at that date. To me, this prediction made 1200 years ago is inclined to support a belief that I have, that time is nowhere nearly as certain a factor as we think it is, and that we must reconstruct our attitude towards the substance of time and see whether or not we are dealing with a dimension of space and a dimension of life that we have not previously considered. This is the prophecy of Saint Odile concerning the Second World War, given in approximately the year AD 700. Listen, O my brother, for I have seen the terror of the forest and the mountains. Fear has frozen the peoples, for never in any region of the universe has such perturbation been witnessed. It is the time when Germania will be called the most belligerent nation on earth. It is the time when there will spring from the womb the terrible warrior who will undertake war on the world. He will be damned by mothers in thousands, refusing consolation because their children no longer live, and because all would have been laid waste in their invaded homes. The conqueror will come from the banks of the Danube. He will be a remarkable chieftain among all men. The war he will undertake will be the most terrifying that humans have ever undergone. It will be impossible to list the victims of his credulities. He will win victories on land and sea and even in the air. Nations will be stunned and will exclaim, "Whence comes his strength? How has he been able to undertake such a war?" The conqueror will have attained the apex of his triumph about the middle of the 6th month of the 2nd year of hostilities. In the flush of his victories he will say, "Accept the yoke of my domination," but his enemies will not submit in any way, and the war will continue, and he will cry, "Misfortune will befall them all, because I am their conqueror." The small nations submitted to the conqueror will plead, "Give us peace, give us peace," but there will be no peace for these people. There will be revolts among the women of his country, who will want to stone him. But also prodigious things will be done in the Orient. The country of the conqueror will be invaded in all its parts in just retribution for his injustices and his ungodliness. Countless regions where all was fired and made bloody will be saved in a providential manner by their heroic defenders. People will offer thanks to God, because men will have such terrible abominations in this war that their generation will never want any more of it. Dated AD 700. If this anticipation is possible to a saintly character such as Saint Odile, it is not impossible that which has been affirmed in the past, and which my own researches sustain, that certain ancient persons and ancient groups in remote times planned definitely the entire program of the development of democracy on the Western Hemisphere, and have worked unceasingly to accomplish that end for nearly 3,000 years. For the purpose of pointing out to you how the shape of things to come could be accurately foretold in some way, I want to call your attention a book in the Library of Congress entitled Vindication of the True Art of Self-Defense by Sir William Hope, Baronet, Deputy Governor of Edinburgh Castle. This book by William Hope chances to be the copy from his own personal library with his autograph in it, and on the flyleaf of this book on dueling, Sir William Hope, Baronet, has written a prophecy concerning America. The prophecy is dated 1732. Let us get the perspective on that 1732. Let us read his prophecy, which is in quaint doggerel verse, because he tells us it is a true prophecy concerning the future of America, given with an odd conception of rhyming, a little reminiscent of Gertrude Stein. The verse, while not eloquent poetry, is very intriguing. Let us read what this man says. This day is cradled far beyond the sea, one starred by fate to rule both bond and free. This was written in England in 1732. The man was born beyond the sea. 1732, you will remember, was the year of the birth of George Washington. Add double 4, thus fix the destiny day, when servile knees unbend neath freedom's sway. Take 1732, the date of the prophecy, and add double 4 or 44. The result is 1776. Then the author says, place 6, 4, 10, then read the patriot's name, whose deeds shall link him to a deathless fame. There are 6 letters in George and 10 in Washington. Thus, 6 before 10 reads the patriot's name. This man is writing of someone born in the year he wrote, possibly the very day. We do not know the day the poem was written. He knew and gives the number of letters that were to be in the name of this person born. He knew also that 44 years later, servile knees would unbend neath freedom's sway. Let us read the next verse. When growing love and ceaseless trust wrong none, and catch truce colors from its glowing sun, death's door shall clang while yet his century waits. This is further in relation to George Washington, who died the last month of the year of the century, December 1799, who died while yet his century waits. And in order that we may go on further with this man, till all the names of freedom scroll shall fade, 2 tombs be built, his lofty cenotaph be made. In 1732, this author knew that the body of George Washington would lie in 2 graves, and that the loftiest cenotaph ever made to a man would be raised in his memory. It just isn't right. It ruins any system of science. These things cannot be, but they are. He also apparently had the forethought to expect that the names on Freedom's scroll should fade. Today, the Declaration of Independence is kept under a very special type of colored cellophane-like substance because the names are threatening to fade out, now foretells our author. Full 6 times 10 the years must onward glide. Nature, the potent help, a constant, prudent guide. From the death of Washington, you are to add 6 times 10 years, 60 years, which brings us approximately to the period of 1859 to 1860. He points this up as being very important, and then he says, when faithful 747 shall sign heroic son, whom Mars and Jupiter strike down before his work is done. There are 7 letters in Abraham and 7 letters in Lincoln, struck down before his work is done. This prediction was written in 1732, more than 100 years before this event occurred. Then, whom cruel fate shall pierce, though artless of its sort, who leaves life's gloomy stage without one farewell word. Abraham Lincoln was shot in Ford's Theater, life's stage. And though he continued to live for some hours, he never spoke after the bullet had entered his brain. He died without one farewell word. On July 4th, 1776, the Continental Congress, meeting in Philadelphia, had to make the most solemn decision that a people can make, a solemn decision which involved not only the future of their country, but their own existence. If the colonists' cause failed, every man whose signature was on the Declaration of Independence would pay for it with his life. They were strong, good, honorable, God-fearing men, but they also had some minor respect for their own skins, and it became quite a problem as to how far to go in severing the connections with the old country and assuming their position in this new world which was to come into existence. They were locked in debate on a very long summer afternoon when, according to an old letter of Thomas Jefferson that I have examined, many of the committee had to stop every little while and swat flies. The conditions were difficult. The galleries were filled with expectant people. Monitors were at the only entrances. The committees were in violent discussion, and the leaders were trying to bring the debate to a rapid conclusion so that this eternal document could see the light of day. Suddenly something happened. Something happened that is only recorded to us in an old book of colonial speeches which, needless to say, has not seen the general light of day. In this book it is stated that suddenly, among these men, up spoke a voice. They all looked up in astonishment, and a perfect stranger stood among them, a slender man with large, deep-set eyes and a stranger look on his face. Not a single person present knew who the man was. It is still to be solved how he got in. The doors were all locked. No person in the balcony, watching everything intently, had seen him come in. This man suddenly spoke. The committee was debating the probabilities of having its neck stretched if anything went wrong, and this man spoke. And this is a selection from the speech of the unknown man at the signing of the Declaration of Independence. They may stretch our necks on all the gibbets in the land. They may turn every rock into a scaffold, every tree into a gallows, every home into a grave, and yet the words of that parchment can never die. They may pour our blood on thousands of scaffolds, and yet from every drop that dries, the axe a new champion of freedom will spring into birth. The words of this declaration will live in the world long after our bones are dust. To the mechanic in his workshop, they will speak hope. To the slave in the mines, freedom. Methinks I see the recording angel come trembling up to the throne and speak his dread message. Father, the old world is baptized in blood. Man trodden beneath the oppressor's feet. Nations lost in blood, murder and superstition walking hand in hand over the graves of the victims. But hark, the voice of God speaks out of the awful cloud. Let there be light again. Tell my people, the poor and the oppressed, to go out from the old world and build my altar in the new. As I live, my friends, I believe that to be his voice, yes, were my soul trembling on the verge of eternity, I would still, with the last impulse of that soul, implore you to remember this truth. God has given America to be free. I beg you, with my last faint whisper, to sign that parchment for the sake of those millions who look up to you for the awful words, "You are free." That was the speech that signed the Declaration of Independence. When the great freedom document had been signed by those present, not all at one time, the first signers rushed forward. Franklin and Jefferson and Hancock turned to congratulate the impassioned orator who had made that speech, but there was no one there. The doors were still locked. No one had seen him go. No one to this day knows who he was or where he had come from or where he went. Condensation from a public lecture. Suggested reading: A System of World Prophecy. The Phoenix. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to share, like, subscribe, and comment. And if you can, please consider donating to Wars of the Rosies. Links to PayPal and Patreon are in the description. Thank you so very much.